Verizon viewers, this is Visual Radio Live with Joe Viglione, and tonight from Malta we have Sophie. Hello, Sophie.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, thank you for calling. What's it like? What time is it right now in Malta?
To be honest, I'm actually in the UK at the moment.
Where are you?
I'm in the UK at the moment, in England.
Oh, you're in London?
Yeah. It's weird because I've had this mini tour going on in November and December in London. So yeah, I'm here at the moment. Actually, just did a gig today.
It's 1 in the morning, isn't it?
It is 1 in the morning.
My stepkids live in London.
Oh, okay.
In St. John's Wood. I must send you an email tonight so you can meet Heidi Jo Hines.
Definitely, I'd love to do that.
Now, her father played with Paul McCartney, Denny Lane's guitarist.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to send you an email for Heidi Jo. She has a new band over there. I'd love for you to meet her.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So, how long have you been in London?
Well, I was here throughout the summer on a summer tour, doing lots of events up and down the country, promoting the single Sunny and all sorts of stuff. But I hadn't actually moved here. I was still based in Malta at the time. Then I went back to Malta for around 2 months to work on the album and finalize some certain tracks for that. And then when I was here in summer, I kind of realized, as I need to be somewhere like London or somewhere outside of Malta, really, if I wanted to pursue this musical career of mine. So, yeah, I kind of made that decision before I went back, and then I went back to finish up tie all the loose ends on the album, which is coming together nicely now. And then I came back here at the beginning of November, so it's just over a month I've properly moved in.
Now, for culturally deprived people like me, see, I have stepkids that are all around the world, but me, I'm situated here in Boston. So, with Malta, I know it's on the Mediterranean. How do you get to London? Do you drive or do you take a plane?
Well, from Malta to London, it's like a 2.5 hour plane. There's no other way, because it's such a small island, in the middle of the Med. There's no other way you could possibly sort of access anywhere. I suppose there could be a ferry that you could maybe take, like a cruise or something. I've never tried it, but the quickest way is to just get on a plane. That's what I do. It's very quick and simple. Gotten used to that now.
Ferry might take a day, right?
What was that, sorry?
A ferry might take a day.
Well, probably. It's quite far away, so by plane it's 2.5 hours. So
right.
God knows how long it'll take on a ferry.
Well, if I were to get on a plane from Boston, it would probably take me 2.5 hours to get to Washington, D.C. or North Carolina. So if you know the East Coast of America.
Yeah, and how long would it take you to get into Europe then?
Oh, to Europe is about 7 or 8 hours.
Whoa.
But, I've never done it, which is crazy because, Heidi and Lane have the house over there in London. And, I have an open invitation, of course, but I just stay here and do my thing.
Yeah, good for you. I've never been outside of Europe, and I'd love to venture to America and so forth. I mean, it's a whole different world out there.
It is. Now, when was the first time you stepped into a recording studio?
Whoa, that's taken me back quite some time. First time in a recording studio, I think it must have been with my sister, and we were really young. I think we were recording, don't laugh at me, we were recording The Lion King, a song from The Lion King. I think it says, "Oh, I just can't wait to begin." I was really young, and it was just a little sort of project we were doing just for fun, because we knew a couple of people back in Malta. And yeah, that was my first taste of actually being inside a recording studio, and I was so excited. And really, really young, around, I couldn't put a number on it because I'd probably be way off, but really young. And just the first experience of being inside the recording studio was it was intimidating at first, because I was like, gosh, I have no idea what to expect. And then once I was in there, I felt like rather relaxed and kind of got into it straight away. So from then on, it was fine. But just the first I remember my first thoughts, thinking, oh gosh, what have I got myself into? But it's just fine.
Well,
I obviously liked it because I kept on doing it for the rest of my life so far.
2 points I'll make. Number one, I wouldn't laugh. I think The Lion King, I think the theme song is absolutely exquisite to The Lion King. That's number one. And number two, first time I was in a studio, a proper studio outside of my own reel-to-reel decks at home, which I played with since I was a teenager, right? I felt very excited because it's a laboratory. It is a sound laboratory where you can play with the chemicals of the sound, you know? And I've always had fun with it.
Cool.
So I always look at it as an exciting experience, and I adore when people play with the medium as you're doing, because it's so important. It's such an important part of life. We create the soundtrack to some people's lives.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, I saw on the website, which is totallysophie.com, you had, and we can only tell people about the website because we're a non-profit TV station, so we can only talk about things. But there are songs on there that I heard. Did you write, like, Love to Love You?
Yes, I wrote that. I actually wrote the lyrics to that one. And there's a guy I work with back in Malta who's called Elton Zarb. I can't mention him, can't I?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. There's a guy I work with, Elton Zarb, back in Malta. And he's the guy I've been working with for most of my like songwriting career so far. He's amazing. I mean, he did the music on Love to Love You, and I wrote the words to that. So it was kind of like a joint effort, and then we produced it together with Giles Squire in the studio. So.
What's Squire's first name?
What was that, sorry?
Squire's first name, what is it?
Giles.
Oh, okay. And is it Elton Zarb, Z-A-R-B?
Yes, Zarb. That's a Maltese surname.
Ah.
Not Elton John, if that's what you were thinking.
Elton Zarb, Z-A-R-B.
Zarb, that's the one, yeah.
But his first name is Elton.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So Sophie worked with Elton.
Yeah, that's what me and my manager actually joke about. Oh, Sophie's working with Elton.
Elton John was the very first concert I saw in a proper concert hall. In 1972, I was 18.
Wow.
And he was amazing, just him and the piano, you know. I don't think he had a band that night. It was just him and the piano solo.
I bet you'll never forget that.
No, I've seen him many times. I've seen him with the bands. I saw him with Ray Cooper, back in 1983 or something, when Mama Can't Buy You Love, when that was a hit. And it was just him and Ray Cooper, the percussionist. Amazing show.
Wow. So you're a fan?
Well, I love a lot of music. The Rolling Stones, Elton John, the Beatles, of course. I'm a big Bobby Hebb fan. Did you know that?
I did know. I thought so, you know.
I asked Bobby, God bless him, when he was alive, I said, am I one of the top 10 authorities on you in the world? And he goes, one of? One of? So that answered my question. I'm very honored, you know.
Of course.
He's such an amazing man, and I'm so proud that you did Sonny, and you did a very good job on it.
Oh, thank you so much.
He was a dear, dear friend of mine. I can tell you, if he could hold the cover and see you and hear it, I guarantee you he would have loved this version.
Oh, that means so much to me. I can't tell you how much that means to me.
Well, I got a copy.
From you as well. That's amazing. Thank you.
I got a copy to his daughter. I got a copy to his manager. We probably have the only 4 copies in America, and you got a copy to Dickie, Richard Eli, and Richard Eli is the Sonny archivist. So you were number 995
I
of,
heard about this. Like, I read something on the website, and I was stunned at the number. I was like, I knew it was something close, but actually having my number, I was like, wow. It felt like so good, and I was like, I was always a bit disappointed I wasn't the like 1,000th.
well, he said we have to have a celebration at number 1,000, but these are the fixed.
That's fine. I was thinking to myself, I was thinking, oh, I wish I would have waited now and waited for 1,000. No, but I'm glad. I like my number.
995. Well, we have a blog, onesotrue.blogspot.com, and Richard has, these are the fixed versions. Now, there are more than 999 versions, but you're the 995th record, you know, like vinyl or cassette or CD. So that's what that number signifies. You know, there's a lot more versions on the web, on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I've been searching about, and that's kind of what sort of sparked my interest into sort of having Sunny as the next single and actually working on that in the studio rather than, because I've always loved this as a song, which I spoke to you about in the written interview. I've always loved this as a song. It's a classic. I mean, everyone knows Sunny. But when it was sort of, when I was approached by management to actually work on it as a proper song, like for the album as a single, I was like over the moon. I mean, that it's one of my favorite songs, and that's from there I kind of started actually looking into like the different versions that are online, and I was just amazed by so much variety of like one song. It is really just amazing.
It's a special club. And like Richard, we found Richard Eli because, you know, we run the Bobby Hebb website, but he had been collecting this outside of us. So now he's part of our team, if you will. And it's just amazing that someone, it's really funny, Sophie, because if I'm bidding on a copy on eBay and I lose the bid, it turns out to be Richard that won the bid. So we make sure we don't compete against each other because I'd rather him have them in his library, you know?
Really?
So I guess I have the number 2 library for Sunny in the world. And, you know, it's great to have someone that collects it like that.
I know, that's amazing. Keeping track of all the different like versions, and there's so many.
Well, you know, there are very few songs, maybe Unchained Melody, the Righteous Brothers, very few songs that have this many copies. The Beatles' Yesterday. Paul McCartney's Yesterday is one of those special songs that I would say 1,000 people covered that one too.
Yeah. I mean, it would be really, it would be really something if like, I'd really love to one day, well, would it take more than a day? I'm not sure. Maybe one day just sit down and actually listen to those whole like 995, and then mine being the like latest version. That would be something special for me.
It would take about 4,000 minutes, whatever that is, and you know, if there's 60 minutes in an hour.
So that was a bit of bad math on my side there.
Sure, because 12 hours in a day is 720 minutes. If you just had 12-hour days where you got to sleep, you know. So 720, you'd have to listen for a week, 12 hours a day for about 5 or 6 days.
I wouldn't mind that.
No, what we'll have to do is get you a radio show where you play them back to back from beginning to end.
That would be amazing.
Sophie's radio show, we're going to play every version of Sunny. It would take a week.
Everyone to listen to.
Isn't that amazing?
That would be extraordinary.
We'll have to find a DJ that wants to do a mashup. And maybe you have your version and a bunch of versions, you know, in a mashup.
That would be so cool. And that could be the next, what would be the next number? 996th version.
Well,
down on the like little catalogue.
with all the records you record for your album, there will always be different versions. DJs come up with these dance mixes now and remixes.
Yeah.
You know, and even with Bobby Hebb's version, even though it's never been remixed, and we have a lot of different versions by Bobby himself, but the original hit has never been remixed, but there's been dance mixes.
Yeah.
And even the different mastering jobs make it sounds like a different remix if you listen to the different mastering jobs. Like the album is different from the CD that Universal put out.
Yeah.
The mastering was so extreme that the piano and the vibraphone came out louder, and it's much different than the album, even though it's the exact same stereo mix they used.
That's amazing.
The remixing engineers, and Heather Witten and Gavin Lurson did the CD. They were able to bring out things from the 2-track master that you don't hear on the vinyl. So it's an amazing world of sound.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
And with you, you've got the whole internet to play to a whole world.
It's a handy tool nowadays.
What was the first record that they released officially from Sophie?
It was definitely Love to Love You, because with this record label that I'm under now, Through the Mill, my first single I released was Love to Love You.
Okay.
And that one it was kind of like a song to test the waters and see like who's going to sort of respond to me and my music, because it was an original song of mine. Obviously no one outside of Malta would have heard of me before, and at that time when I released it I was still Malta based, and I hadn't ventured out into the rest of the world at that point in time. So it was kind of testing the waters to see how people would react to my sound, my music, and etc. So that is mainly, more than actually wanting to get sort of, we just wanted to see people's reaction to it. And it was quite positive, but obviously it wasn't exactly what we wanted. Obviously, you're always wanting more. So after that one, we wanted more. And then in the UK, we gave it to some radio stations, and some accepted it, and then some of the bigger ones were just like, but it's a great tune, we'd love to play it, but we don't know who you are. So I found that a bit sort of unfair almost, but I obviously didn't take it to heart. I was just like determined then. From then on, I was like, okay, I'm going to get these people to know who I am. So that's been the mission ever since. And then now this is the next single, Sunny. And I've been promoting that throughout the summer, doing loads of gigs up and down UK. And hopefully now, once it's released, I can venture outside of the UK as well. That would be even more, like, amazing. But, yeah, that was my mission, to sort of get people now to know who I am. And then maybe radio stations would be more open to actually playing my version of Sunny.
Well, you know, in America, it's crazy, because 20 years ago, they would say to you, or 30 years ago, well, if you don't have the records in the stores, we're not going to play it on the radio. And the stores would say, well, if you're not getting radio play, we're not going to put you in the store.
And so it's a lose-lose situation.
It's a catch-22, so you actually had to have the endorsement of a record label so that they would be putting the posters up and doing the radio promotion and doing the store at the same time. And then the stores would charge for window space. You would actually have to give them free product if you wanted to be in the window. So it was an enormous expense if you were a struggling independent artist.
Exactly.
And even the signed artists, you know, they would have like 5 or 6 records a week, and the record labels would have 2 priorities, a couple in the middle that maybe they push hard, and then the ones in the bottom, it's like, well, if they play them, they play them, but we're not going to push it. So there were always priorities, even if you were signed to a Columbia or a Warner Brothers. And it was up to the artist to really make something happen.
Even more so than with the larger record companies, I would believe.
Well, I don't know if you know Helen Reddy, that name. She's an Australian singer.
Oh.
And she had a hit song called I Am Woman. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah? I think so, yeah.
Look it up on the web, because it might be a good song to redo in this era, you know? But Capitol Records told her they didn't like the single.
Okay.
So she and her husband at the time was Jeff Wald. He's now a fight promoter. But Jeff Wald and Helen Reddy got in the car and they went and did, about 24 TV interviews, culminating in The Tonight Show. And the record went to #1. But they literally had to go promote it because Capitol had pretty much thrown it to the wind.
Exactly.
And I don't think Capitol exists anymore. I think they sold to 2 of the labels. I think Sony has the recordings and Universal has the publishing. So Capitol Records, the Beatles' original label, no longer exists.
That's a shame.
All these heritage labels going away as they consolidate. I don't like it.
No.
But I'm giving you the history of rock here, you know? So tell me, when did you perform last and where?
Last was actually today. Well, not. It's today over there, but over here it is yesterday. So we're talking about Thursday, the 6th of December.
And where'd you play?
I was at Cash for Kids. It's a charity in the UK, and it's a fundraising event that raises money for children, like less fortunate children. And I was honoured to be part of that. And there's lots and lots of different events that go on around this time of the year, and all through the year, I'm led to believe, to do with this cause. And especially now around Christmas time, they sort of make that extra special effort to raise as much as they can, I mean, for these children. I think it's an amazing cause. And I've never been part of that before today. And so one of my managers got me this gig, and I was over the moon. I was like, I feel so good inside when I can actually sort of contribute to such a good cause like that. I mean, Cash for Kids, it kind of says it in the title. It is what it says it is. And just being there today, and just like, it is a very, how can I explain it? I've not done many gigs like this one, because it was like loads of round tables in this big hall, and then a stage for me to perform on. And there were some other artists as well there, and it was just a really lovely atmosphere. Everyone was so friendly. It was actually in Scotland today, so I've been travelling all around everywhere. It was up in Scotland today, and yeah, it was just an honour for me to be a part of like a fundraising event for such a good cause. I mean, at this time of the year especially, there's nothing more I would want to be doing.
Now, did you have, what was the set list like? How many songs?
I only did 3 today. So I started off with You Can't Hurry Love, and then I went on to an original song of mine, which is Up the Wall, and then I finished with the grand finale of Sunny.
Oh, wow, you did.
As always.
Oh, so you do Sunny at the end of the set?
Definitely. I always sort of round off my set with Sunny. I like to start it off with You Can't Hurry Love, because it's a very upbeat, sort of catchy song. Everyone knows it, everyone sings along to it. So even if there's people in the audience who probably don't know who I am, then that sort of catches their ear, and then they kind of turn to look at me, oh, she's a good singer, or oh, this is a good track, this is a good version of the song. And then that's how I that's my method behind my madness when I plan out my set. So yeah, the first one needs to be like a sort of ear and eye catcher. And then once I've got the audience on my side, I can introduce them to a bit more of my personal like songwriting, and which is the second one, which would be an original. And then it depends how many songs I'm doing. Throughout November and December, I mainly did like 4 songs, because I had 15-minute sets. So I would do You Can't Hurry Love to start off with, and then 2 originals, one of them being Up the Wall, the other being Jump the Gun, which is not out for people to hear at the moment, but it should be very soon. Fingers crossed, I like that song. And then I always round it off with Sunny. I mean, it's the perfect finale. I get everyone like dancing and singing along to it. I mean, it's a great like party song, especially like how I perform it on stage. It's one of my favorites to do, actually, live on stage. And yeah, it's just like, I like to leave that good impression of such an amazing song on the audience. And even it's the single I'm promoting with all these different gigs, it's the last impression they're going to have of me and of my performance. So it's the last thing I leave them thinking, oh, Sunny, it's going to be released. Oh, okay.
Now, do you play to track music, or do you have a band?
Here's the thing. In the UK, I have to play to track music at the moment, because because of the expense of the band and traveling and etc. And because I'm new to the UK, I haven't had the chance to like sort of find musicians and sort of gather them and create my own band in the UK. I used to do that back in Malta with a group of talented musicians, very very young, like my age, back in Malta, and we did play Sunny and we played all my original songs, and it was in the stage of where we were preparing. So at the beginning of this year we started playing all these tracks and it was sounding amazing. The only thing that was missing was like a little bit of brass, but necessarily that wasn't it wasn't a must to have there, because there were some very talented musicians and they all like shone in their own way. So it came together really nicely, but unfortunately we never had a chance to sort of to promote that and perform live anywhere. It was just sort of kept behind the scenes, working and working and working, hope and fingers crossed towards some gigs abroad. Then when I got the gigs abroad for the summer, it was all a bit too soon for the band, because we wanted the first time people heard us play live music, we wanted it to be spot on. And I wasn't ready to let the public hear something that wasn't 100% and wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to sound. So it might sound a bit sort of picky, but I think that's the way you've got to be. I mean, first impressions are everything. And with a public that haven't heard of you before, there's no room for mistakes. So I wanted to take it slowly. I'm still in contact with them all, so hopefully when I go back to Malta for some holidays and stuff, we can get together and jam a bit. And fingers crossed they can come over to the UK and start actually gigging with me over here. That would be amazing for me.
Now, is there a group of Italian women who sing with you?
I can see where you would have got that impression from, but no, they're not Italian. They are from the UK, and they're my backing dancers.
Oh.
So, I basically, back in Malta, I had this group of dancers who would accompany me to like TV sort of gigs and stuff like that, because as the visuals sort of for like a TV set and performing on TV, everyone likes to see that little bit more sort of filling up the screen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So back in Malta, I did work with the Arda Dance Company, they were called, but unfortunately we didn't have enough funding to bring them over with me for this for the last summer's tour. So when I came over, I wanted to have that support with me on stage and not just go out by myself, because bearing in mind I had to sing to a track. So I felt not a bit intimidated, but I didn't want to be sort of just out there on my own, being it's the first time venturing into sort of a different country. So I wanted to have that support and backup of at least a couple of dancers around me. And let's face it, like You Can't Hurry Love and Sunny, they're all great ones to dance to. So I did hold auditions in London, and this is why you probably thought they were Italian. It's because they came from a college called Italia Conti.
Ah.
Now this is a hard one to get my head around, so I'll try to explain it. It's basically a musical theatre school based in central London. My sister actually went to that school and she's graduated now. It's just mainly based on musical theatre and preparing people for the West End and all of that in London. So that's how you could have got the impression that they were Italian.
Okay.
Most people make the same mistake. I did at the beginning when I didn't know about the whole school, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's what it's just the name, Italia Conti.
Now, I'll blame myself. I do so much. I juggle a lot. I really do have to be more specific with things. But we're having fun on the phone, and you can explain things to me.
Oh, definitely. No,
That's my out.
That's what I like to do. Those people, though, even when I present, when I went gigging and touring in the summer with these 4 girls from Italia Conti, there was the whole audition process, and we chose 4 of them, and they were absolute stars. When we did perform, I always liked to introduce them to the audience. So after the first number, I sort of give them their own little time to sort of wave or bow. So I would mention them by name and say, oh, these are the ladies from Italia Conti. They're accompanying me today, blah, blah, blah. And when I come off stage, I always like to venture into the audience, hand out some flyers of mine, get some pictures, sign some autographs and stuff like that, just to sort of create that bond with the public and make new friends, because that's what the tour was all about. And lots of people would tell me, oh, so are these ladies Italian then? Oh, where are they from in Italy? Every time, someone would definitely say that, and I kind of had to explain about what I just explained to you.
And that's a good question then. That's actually good. I like it as a question then. It's good because it gets you to tell us what they're all about.
Exactly, and it's a little bit of sort of promotion almost for them, as in, because they're all, they're four ladies individually, they're amazing, actresses, singers, and dancers, because that's what they need to do to be good at musical theatre and be in the musical, business. So it's nice, yeah, I can tell their story for them a little bit like that. But then, towards the end of the tour, I kind of learnt from my mistake. Well, it wasn't a mistake, but I kind of started saying, oh, these are the ladies from Italia Conti in London. So I started to mention London, so people sort of got their head around that a bit more towards the end of the gig, or towards the end of the tour.
Now, are they the same as the Art of Dance Company?
Which one?
Did you say the Art of Dance Company? Was that something?
Oh, the Yada.
Y-A-D-A?
Y-A-D-A, Yada. That is a Maltese dance company. So these four ladies, they were obviously separate from that. So that was back in Malta. I used to work with the Yada dance company. I'm quite into dancing myself, and I used to do it and do all the exams and everything like that when I was younger. I've gone out of it a little bit now because I've been so busy with songwriting and my music career that I had to sort of pull away from the dancing a little bit. But that's how I got to know the Yada dance company, because I used to go to classes back in Malta with them, which was amazing, kept me nice and fit, which is what I miss the most, I think. But then, yeah, when I came to the UK, I worked with these ladies from Italia Conti in London.
Well, that's a great background because an artist has to be multidimensional. And when you're on stage, it gives you great chops for the stage that you might not even be conscious of, because it's just in you, you know?
Yeah.
The dancing thing. So I think dance is very important for people that want to, grab a microphone and be on stage.
Exactly. That's sort of what it's all about nowadays. Obviously, the vocal performance is everything, and then also the visual performance is just as much. It's just counted as much nowadays. When someone goes to watch a gig or an event or even on TV or whatever, they want to see that performance. In my eyes, I think people want to see that performance visually as well as through the sound. Because that's what I look out for. When you see these pop stars nowadays, on TV, or I went to watch. Do you know who Jessie J is?
No.
Oh, she's a really talented singer-songwriter in the UK, and I went to watch her live in concert, and she is absolutely amazing. She's got such a good voice. But not only that, she didn't have any dancers with her. It was just her and the band. But she didn't need any dancers because she just sort of commanded the stage herself, and that's something I really, really look up to her for. Just dominating the stage, and she's got so much charisma on stage. Like Rihanna, do you know? I guess you know who.
Oh,
Rihanna,
yeah, sure.
She's another one who I really look up to. Obviously, on your side of the pond, so to speak, from America. She's just an amazing artist, on stage, and that's what I look for in an artist. The voice, and then how much they can deliver visually as well. Because it's part of my background, being sort of a dancer and a singer. That's what I want to see in other artists, and just look for that sort of show that they put on. It's something I look forward to seeing in every artist.
Well, I've been to clubs so much in my life, I don't go out anymore. But Saturday night, Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople. Did you ever hear of that band?
What's it called?
Mott the Hoople. Very big in England. Very big in Europe. Ian Hunter. I-A-N Hunter.
I'll look that up. You know, I'm really, really bad with names. I really need to work on
Well,
it.
it's a whole other generation, but they just reformed and toured, and they sold out everywhere. So Ian Hunter came to Boston and played the Paradise. And they invited me last year. They invited me this year. I'm very good friends with his drummer, and I've reviewed many of his records. So he went into his new single, When I'm President, and I was dancing by myself up on the balcony, which I don't go out much anymore, but it was just so much fun. I had a blast.
Wow. I can imagine.
I had a free extra ticket. I would have taken you.
Oh, you should have taken me. I would have been there.
I had 2 passes, and I invited a lot of different friends, and everyone was busy. Now, everyone loves Ian Hunter, but I had 2 backstage passes, so a friend of mine who was on the radio back in the 60s, I brought him backstage with me because I had the 2 passes. And Ian really loved talking to him. He says it's great meeting interesting people. And so he really took to this fellow DJ.
That's good.
From way back when, but this guy never goes out anymore, and we just happened to be at the same show. We were texting each other. I said, I'm on the balcony, but I couldn't find him. He was on the balcony on the other side.
Oh, wow.
You could be texting someone and they're right there, but it's so crowded, you know?
I know.
You would love the Paradise in Boston. It's a marvelous club.
Oh, I like a bit of clubbing, you know, but the thing is, the time. I need to find the time to do it. Like in the UK, I haven't been to many clubs whatsoever because I've been so focused on like preparing for the gigs, making sure I've got everything sorted. In between, I do a little part-time job in waitressing, keeping some money coming in, you know. And so when I go back to Malta, I do like to have a little party, like a little go out with the girls and stuff like that. But in the UK, I must admit, I haven't been too wild. I've tried to be educated and stick sort of to what I'm here to do. It's been hard, but it's what I'm here to do, and it's a passion of mine, so it's not that hard, really.
Now, I understand London closes at 4 a.m., the clubs? Or do they go all night?
Yeah. I think you caught me off guard, you see, because I'm not used to
That's okay.
over here. I know, like back in Malta, some certain places do close because it's such a small island that there's just one mega club scene. So there's just one area where all the clubs are situated. So it's lovely to go out, and you can go just from one club to the other, to the other, to the other, and they all got like play different music, and it's a lovely atmosphere. But I know like some of the clubs do stay open to like really early hours, like 6, 7 o'clock.
Whoa.
So you could say sort of all night. I've only done that once. I've only done that once. And it was a special celebration evening for me, so I let myself off on that once. That's how I know that this one club stays open that late. That's a little secret, by the way.
Well, I've never been a drinker. Never, okay? But I was in the recording studio in the 1980s with Jimmy Miller. Jimmy produced the Rolling Stones. And we were down in Rhode Island. So Rhode Island is the next state down from Massachusetts.
Okay.
And the club, the bar, it was a little neighborhood bar, it was open all night, which I thought was amazing, right?
Wow.
And I don't know if it was 6 o'clock or 7 in the morning, and I find them, the engineer and the producer, at the bar. They bought me a beer at like 6:37 in the morning. It was the most disgusting thing.
Oh my God.
I mean, you know, I couldn't even envision it, and I'm there, and you want to be sociable, and they're buying me a beer at like 6:37. It was just very Twilight Zone. In fact, the engineer was on my show maybe 6 months ago, so we hadn't talked to each other in decades. It was so good to have him here to catch up, you know?
Yeah.
He worked with a band called New Kids on the Block.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they did them down in that studio. And Beaver Brown, which was a big band in the 80s here. John Cafferty and Beaver Brown. And I did a lot of work in that studio. So,
I can imagine, you've been a busy man.
it doesn't exist anymore. It was called Normandy Sound. You roll out of the studio and over to the bar. And for someone like me who's not accustomed to that, it was just an odd experience.
Exactly. It should be the same with me if that's what happened here. I'm so not used to, like, just sort of partying. I'm not that sort of person. Like I say, I do like the odd sort of night out when I'm back in Malta, like around friends and stuff. But like when I'm here, it's just like I go from one event to the other, so I couldn't imagine in between partying. I'd just be zonked out by the end of the week. I mean, that would be crazy.
Well, you sound a lot like me. I get down to business, and I'm at the Ian Hunter show. Basically, I was writing. I was writing the review. I was writing things. I had my notebook with me, and people come over. Are you a critic? Yes. I tell them, go to allmusic.com and put in Ian Hunter and read my reviews. So, and so they, oh, okay. And it's just funny when you have a book with you. Oh, and if you go out clubbing in America and you bring a book with you and you're writing in it, they think you're the alcohol commission and they get very nervous.
Really?
It's hilarious. I was in New York writing poetry, and the club owners got very nervous and come over to me. What are you doing? Writing poetry. Oh, thank God. And then they walk away. It's a great conversation piece to bring a notebook into a nightclub,
Yeah, and just see where it takes you.
Well, I write all the time, so it's just natural to me. But, and that's what I like to do. At a restaurant, I'm going to go to dinner with my friend after the show, and I'll bring my notebook with me,
Yeah.
So, anyway, I got a couple of last questions for you. Malta.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when do the nightclubs close in Malta?
Oh, to be honest, I don't know exactly like the closing times, because when I do go out, like the couple of times I have been out, I never stay to closing hours. I don't have that much stamina. I mean, girls my age go out in whopping heels, like stiletto heels.
Okay.
I could not, like most of the time I need to leave by 3 o'clock. I'm not, as in, I like to have fun and I like to do all that, but I'm not like a wild party animal who can stay out all night and be fine. I'm like getting tired by 3 o'clock. And there are odd nights where if it's a really good night and I'm really enjoying myself around good people, that you do want to stay on, but then it depends what's going on the next day, what you have to commit to and get up for the next morning. So there's lots of things to take into account. So I've never, apart from just one night, it is my prom night. That is the only night that I stayed out to quite a ridiculous hour, but it is fine. My mum and dad knew about it. Everything was under control.
Good.
And it was a special evening for me. It was my prom night after all, so I was kind of let off the hook on that one.
Now, Sophie, the island, I know we could Google it, but how big is the island, would you say?
It's not very big whatsoever. Exactly like in sort of measurements, it's caught me off guard.
Well, that's okay. But it's water everywhere, so there's a lot of seashore.
Yes, exactly. But let me sort of put it to you like this, maybe you could understand this a bit better. It's to get from one side of the island, like the north to the south of the island, so going the longest sort of stretch from one end to the other, you'd need definitely under 2 hours.
Oh, okay. So that gives me a good...
So like within 2 hours you could go around the whole island.
So it's bigger than Manhattan. Bigger than New York City.
Manhattan?
Yeah, New York City.
Definitely not. It's probably like not even a tenth of New York. I've never been there, so I couldn't judge or make comparison there. But it's very, very small. So everyone knows everyone in Malta. I love that sort of thing where you can't. well, I love it and hate it at the same time, because you can't do anything without anyone sort of recognizing you and knowing you, and oh, she did this, she did that. There's lots of rumors and stuff like that going around, like Malta, because everyone's in everyone's business, because everyone knows everyone. So it's lovely because we feel like just one sort of big family, because loads of people know loads of people. And then, for example, there's always like, oh, she's like my cousin's best friend's sister's, you know, and that just sort of goes on. And just people, it's such a small island. I mean, everyone ends up knowing everyone. So it's lovely because it's a very close sort of community, like the Maltese people. But at the same time, everyone's in everyone's business. So there's no privacy. Don't even think about getting any privacy. But it's nice. It's nice. I like that.
Well, Sophie, I have to talk to my film critic now, Frank Dello Stritto. So we're going to thank you so much for being on the air. When you do come to America, you'll have to be on the show proper, right in the studio.
Definitely.
You will love New York and Los Angeles, trust me. And the new single is Sunny, and it's totallysophie.com.
Yes, and then it's Totally Sophie on the like social media networks and all that.
So if you'd like to contact Sophie and talk to her, totallysophie.com, Facebook, Twitter. Sophie, we just so much appreciate you calling in.
Thank you, and everyone watch out for Sunny on the 9th of December.
Thank you so much.
Everyone would like it as much as I do.
Okay, Sophie, have a great night or morning.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Okay, yep. Bye-bye. And that was Sophie calling from London. How nice of her. Time for Frank Dello Stritto. I'm cutting it close as usual.
Frank Dello Stritto talking about movies.
Hey, Frank, I had a lovely woman, Sophie, on from Malta.
Oh, wow.
She's in London tonight, but she's from Malta. We talked about Malta and the Maltese Falcon. Is that from Malta?
If there was such a thing as the Maltese Falcon, I think it came from Malta. It's all explained by Sidney Greenstreet in the movie. And yes, it's from Malta. Supposedly a statuette made to honor the King of Spain that never quite got there and fell into the gutters of Paris until fortune hunters went chasing it, and thus the plot of the Maltese Falcon.
You're the man.
Okay.
What are we talking about tonight?
Let's see, you gave me two movies to talk about. I believe tomorrow night's movie is The Flying Deuces with Laurel Hardy, a 1939 movie.
Yep.
And the week after that, you're showing Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women, a 1968 movie. So, let's see, Flying Deuces, directed by Edward Sutherland, who did a lot of good work, but he is most remembered for saying about Stan Laurel, I would rather eat a tarantula than direct with him again.
Wow.
Sutherland, you know, he worked with Abbott and Costello, he worked with Mae West, he worked with W.C. Fields, and he made this one film with Laurel and Hardy, and it didn't go well. Edward Sutherland was no stranger to comedy. He was one of the original Keystone Cops. And my guess is he wanted things done his way, and Stan Laurel wanted things done his way, and they never got quite got along. And you know, when I was reading up on this today, the great comedy team of the 1930s was Laurel and Hardy. The great comedy team of the 1940s was Abbott and Costello. The great comedy team of the 1950s was Lewis and Martin. And in all three cases, the sappy, docile one on screen is the much tougher man off screen. You'd much rather be negotiating something with Hardy than with Laurel, than with Abbott than Costello, and with Dean Martin instead of Jerry Lewis. So, you know, these professional simpletons on screen are often very shrewd and cagey men off screens. And Laurel, you would never know it by looking at the screen, but Laurel was the one who worked into the night on scripts and gags and worked hard on the production, whereas Hardy was, you know, just happy to show up and do the best he could during filming, but he didn't get that involved in it. He never set up a production company like Stan Laurel did and all that.
Have another drink, Dean. Let's negotiate.
Maybe. And now, let me say, you know, Hal Roach was one of the first producers of movies that went into television, and he brought with him his library, which meant two things to a little kid like me at the time. Little Rascals and Laurel and Hardy. And I grew up on the Little Rascals and Laurel and Hardy because Hal Roach did not waste time like a lot of studios did licensing his movies to television. So I grew up on those movies, and I probably saw Flying Deuces 100 times as a child, and all the other Laurel and Hardy movies. And of course, they were all cut down to fit in time frames. So it wasn't until years later when I saw the complete film, usually on VHS when they came out, that I realized there were whole sequences in there and major characters that I never saw because the movies were cut down to fit into an hour time slot. And this movie is about an hour plus long. So, take out 20 minutes for commercials. I missed at least 20 minutes of the movie when I was a kid. This is not a Hal Roach movie, which is why it's in the public domain. For a long time, the 1930s Laurel and Hardy movies were, except for the March of the Wooden Soldiers, or Babes in Toyland, whichever name you want to go by. Except for that one, they have been hard to come by on television, on DVD or VHS, and that is starting to loosen up. There's an essential collection came out last year, and so people can actually get to see them. But for for a long time, decades, they haven't been easy to see on television or in the movies. But I grew up on them. They were on every day. Their short films would be on, like the Laurel and Hardy show would be an afternoon show. They'd be one of those TV hosts who would introduce the short films, and then the feature films cut down to an hour usually would play on the weekends. So I really miss them. This is the third Laurel and Hardy movie you've shown. You had Atoll K, and you had the war movie Great Guns, and that's them past their prime. This is probably one of the last movies they made in what you can say is their prime. It's, I imagine for young viewers, a lot of the visual gags are a little tired and all that, but this movie moves. Flying Deuces is a play on Flying Aces. The movie's almost over before they get in the plane. There's a lot of plot before this. There's they joined the French Foreign Legion. There's all sorts of antics going on. So it's kind of lively, and I would say they're a little past their prime when they made this, but not by much. This is a pretty good movie. A couple of trivia things. Oliver Hardy met his wife while making this movie. She was what they used to call a script girl. Now they would call a continuity person. And I believe this is the only movie that Oliver Hardy's character dies in.
Oh.
And but it's a cheerful death. I mean, he comes back. So Lou Costello died in one of their movies, and that was The Time of Their Lives, where he dies in the beginning. He plays a ghost of the whole movie, and similar fate meets Oliver Hardy in this. But don't worry, he'll be back. And
well, let me ask you this about the movie. Before you realized that there was the tarantula quote,
yeah.
How did you feel when you first saw it? Was it enjoyable to you?
Oh yes. I mean, often you read about people behind the scenes who just couldn't get along, that hated each other, swore they'd never work again. But when you see the movie, you wouldn't know it.
And for those people, I've heard at least the musicians' side of it, they can't stand the work they did if there was animosity. They just hate it, and they won't watch it or listen to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what does it do? It conjures up bad experiences. I mean,
right.
For me, Flying Deuces is something I used to watch on Saturday afternoons when I was a kid. For the people that made it, it was what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks work that they had 20 years ago, and maybe they don't need to be reminded of it. Maybe many performers are never happy with their own work, and then when it conjures up ill memories of they made me do that scene that way and I didn't want to do it, or I just didn't come across the way it would have if they let me do what I wanted to do. I can see that. So I have no idea if Laurel or Edward Sutherland ever watch this movie again. I don't know.
Well, next week I have Dave Monroe, and I'm going to try to give you more time. We'll attack Voyage to the Planet next week.
Okay, are we out of time?
We've got 30 seconds.
Okay, one other piece of trivia I dug up while online reading about this movie. There's a scene where Stan Laurel's character plays a harp, and the harp is actually played by Harpo Marx. And Harpo Marx gave Stan Laurel lessons, and so his hand movements would look natural.
That's amazing, man. That's pretty cool. Frank, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
Thank,
To Planet of Prehistoric Women next week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
and watch your mailbox.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's Frank Dello Stritto and Sophie DeBattista. That's our show. The views and opinions on Visual Radio Live are those of Joe Viglione, the host, and his guests, Sophie and Frank Dello Stritto, not necessarily those of WinCam, board of directors and staff, and our affiliate stations, of which there are many. We're expecting Dave Monroe next week from Air Traffic Controller out of Malden. Great band, great band. Thank you.